We are seeing a production tonight called The Last Wife. This is a production. It's very important that I tell you that for those of you who don't know, there are 5 other productions happening of this play already. It's really, really caught on in a tremendous way. We were thrilled about when this production happened, and it was sold out in Stratford, and not enough people got to see it. And the fact that our associate artistic director directed it, the fact that his wife Mev Beatty is a star, who's a longtime member of our company, and the fact that Henry VIII, she plays Katherine Parr, and the fact that Henry VIII was played by none other than Joseph Ziegler, our founding member, and that several of the members of the cast have been members of the Soulpepper cast in the past. It just seemed that this is the place it should come to next, this very production. And we're really thrilled that it's here, and we're really thrilled that tonight we have Kate Hennig here to tell us a little bit about why this play and what's the future of it.
Thank you so much, Albert and Leslie. It's really, it's just such an honor to be here. Albert and I go back longer than I'll actually mention. But, I won't give a date, but I will say that we were both 19 when we met. So it's a few years, just a couple of years ago now. Yeah, over 10, that's right. So thank you very much for bringing my play here. I would have to agree. I think that it's just a wonderful place for the next stage in the journey of this play to come to Soulpepper. I started the play in, I was playing the dance teacher in Billy Elliot here in Toronto in 2011 when the Arab Spring began to happen. And I was very interested in the toppling of these tyrants over in the Middle East, and I was equally fascinated by the fact that there were no women present. I mean, there were a few women in Tahrir Square, but you never saw the wives or the daughters of these people. And I was compelled by that, wondering what kind of women are married to men like that? What kind of influence do the women have over men like that? What do those men tell to their daughters when they commit the kinds of acts that they are either compelled to act, to perform or choose to? So I was very interested in that subject matter, and being who I was, not really ready to write a play about the Middle East. But looking to my own history, it was very quickly available to me to see that Henry VIII was someone that I could write about. And as soon as I started looking at him, I found out how little anyone knows about Katherine Parr and what a remarkable woman she was. So she was this amazing woman who had to deal with that guy. So I thought, oh, well, I'm going to write about that. And then, of course, he happens to have these 2 amazing daughters who become the first and second reigning queens of England. So that was what compelled me to write this play. I hope you will be intrigued by the way that it all has come together with some of the finest actors in the country, a magnificent design team, and an awesome collaborator in Alan Dilworth as director. So I really hope that you enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, even if you don't, there's a second play that I've written, a companion piece called The Virgin Trial, which will premiere at Stratford this summer in June. So, and my head is very full of writing the third play as well. So. Anyway, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I will go and be Mrs. Thatcher for a little while, and then, you know, if you're really gung-ho, I'll see you at the party afterwards.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, we're all very excited to see this evening, and then I'm very curious because I've been talking to Alan about this. Alan will be directing The Virgin Trial, which is, of course, about Henry VIII's second daughter, and Elizabeth. And the third play that Kate is writing is a play about the first daughter, So Elizabeth, as we all know, is the daughter of Anne Boleyn, the harlot that Philip II and all those papist people referred to her as. Philip II, was it his niece? Was Catherine his sister? Catherine was his cousin. So Catherine of Aragon, the first wife that Henry divorced, was of course the cousin of Philip II, the most powerful man in the world, the man certainly in the Western world, the man who sent the Armada in 1588 into the open arms of young Bess, who had survived her older sister and become the queen. Now her older sister, and there's a lot of confusion about this, because there are two, right at this time, there are two very famous Marys. There is Mary, Queen of Scots, and there is Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor. Now, that is the Mary. Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, is the Mary that the third play will be about, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a fascinating, fascinating character. I mean, this is certainly, there's no mistake that Kate grew up, being in this part of the world, as we're a part of the Commonwealth, the most fascinating kind of period in all of our shared history is this time when the whole world goes through a kind of upheaval, and nowhere more both a upheaval of rebirth or renaissance of thought, an upheaval of the reformation of what our beliefs are, and this family, this incredibly complex family dynamic, all happening in one city of a few 100,000 people, being London, England. All of this happens right at this time in the life of this one man who Joe's playing this evening, and in the life of his daughters. And this is a time that Kate is writing about, just a fascinating, fascinating time. And the fact that in this lifetime, in 1564, in the same year that Galileo and Shakespeare are both born, just makes it that much more. It's one of these kind of outlying times, Malcolm Gladwell, the outlier generation is this incredible generation between sort of 1530 and 1590, when you just can't believe what happened in this one place. So I'm thrilled to see tonight. I'm thrilled to see what happens this summer at Stratford that you've already cooked and that Alan's going to cook up with the gang, many of whom are on the stage tonight. So this is the fun thing, because it's going to be the same people then going through a new iteration of these stories, and then you're going to, in probably the year after, or whenever it's ready, a couple years after, we'll see the next one. So this is Alan Dilworth, folks, our director.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight. So I'll try to give you some foreground on the play. It's very, very hard to follow up Kate Hennig. Kate Hennig's mind and her relationship to the material that you're going to experience tonight is very deep and very wide. And so it's been a remarkable journey to kind of be taken on this journey through the Tudor period with her. But the foreground. So you're going to see, in effect, what is a complex biopic, in a way, of Katherine Parr. And what's extraordinary is that when I first encountered this piece of writing, I was immediately blown away by the mind that was at work in the writing, and the mind of the personage who was being in a way, conjured Katherine Parr through the writing, not to mention Henry, etc., etc. But what I want you to know is that when I encountered this in 2015, it would have been 2014 when I first encountered the script, I can tell you that my director's note that I wrote the first time we approached this play was about our obsession with Henry VIII. I had been working on a project with a colleague in England, and so I was there for a short period of time, and there were faux Tudor houses everywhere I was in the Midlands. And I became obsessed with this question because I was already kind of trying to research Henry VIII. So I kept asking questions about why, like, and the Tudor housing was apparently, I was told, and I know there's different perspectives on this, but I was told that the Tudor housing was created to conjure back to a time where the English felt extremely virile and very strong after World War I. So to try to get everyone's spirits back up, to make everyone feel strong and ready to move into the rest of the century. So listen to this story. You know, a middle-class white guy's directing a play that's about Katherine Parr, and what do I spend my time obsessing about? I spend my time obsessing about Henry VIII. Remarkable, remarkable thing. And of course, I wrote in my notes, I was aware. It's like, I know, I'm self-aware. I'm aware that I'm doing this, but isn't this interesting that it's so crazy? That production sold very, very quickly. And I think there's a mania in our world for Henry VIII in the English Commonwealth, because I think he's such an example of absolute power and kind of like the most extreme version of patriarchy you can kind of imagine. And that's so fascinating. So this is one, that was where my notes at the time went. Here we are in 2017, and the question seems to be on so many people's lips, on so many people's minds, seems to be like, what can I do? Certainly there's a lot of people thinking about in terms of the world, like what can I do in the world when I want to see changes? How can I be the change I want to see, etc. And it seems that everyone has an element of the whether it's recycling or whatever you do. I know that I admit that I have an espresso, but I do take my pods down to Yorkville and I deposit them in the bin. But there's this question, like, but that's hilarious. But on another level, these questions of what can we do, what can we do to change? And so in 2017, when I think about the Katherine Parr story, what stands out to me more, it was there, and it was on the stage, but what stands out more now is someone who's looking 3 generations into the future and who is saying, what do we need in our world? And she's looking at 2 daughters who have been politically exiled by their father for political and personal reasons. And she takes risks, and she says, I'd like to try to bring them back around. Excuse me. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to lay out any spoilers here. But this idea of someone who's looking ahead, who's making room and making space, not just for their own ambitions and their own brilliance, but is recognizing the possibility of brilliance in the future and possibility in the future. And that, for me, is what just rings like a bell. It did ultimately in 2015 for me, but really in 2017, in our moment, and no matter how you feel, but we've had we've had an inauguration. We have a new prime minister. There's a lot of questions around the future. Where are we going? What are we doing? And this is such an extraordinary play for me because we're getting a chance to look at someone's life and to say, wow, this person really made some choices. They were complicated. It was mucky. It was messy. It was mired. And I find that really interesting. I find that really interesting in this moment and very, very inspiring. I just want to say also that because I could write a director's note in 2015, and because I can write a director's note and hopefully move the conversation forward, at least for myself, if not for anyone else, and because we can move the conversation forward on the stage, and my extraordinary colleagues, including Kate, who aggressively we attacked the script again, moving it forward. This is a beast of a piece. And my amazing colleagues in the room, who also aggressively, in their spheres of expertise, threw themselves at it, including the performers you're going to see tonight. What a privilege it is. And I want to thank Albert and Leslie. I want to thank you for having the opportunity in my relationship with you and your relationship with the others on the piece to be able to come to it again and to wrestle with its questions here, and then to be able to share that with you. And it's very rare to get to be able to revisit something and to try to take it deeper, to try to ask more questions, and to make those questions speak in some way. You'll have to tell me at intermission, or hopefully after you tell me better, whether you think it's speaking or not. But it's a real privilege, and I feel wholly wholly grateful for, again, a chance to work on this material and to revisit at a time where it's speaking so much to our world. And I'm very grateful for you, because you make this happen. Not only by supporting your great supporters of Soulpepper and guests of supporters of Soulpepper, but also because you're here tonight and you come and you engage, and that's a great thing. So I hope you have an experience you may or may not enjoy, but I hope you enjoy. And I really, really appreciate your presence, and thanks very much.